week, but we got a heavy hitter that happened yesterday on Monday. And that is that out of nowhere, Epic Games decided to pay a $520 million fine to the FTC. I believe this is the largest fine the FTC has ever received. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it is quite historic.
Right. And they are paying this because they broke, not, I guess not the, is it a law, or they had a bunch of COPPA violations, and that is COPPA is it is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Already right there, that's a big deal that they violated the COPPA Act of all things. And what it looks like is the total fine is $520 million. So it's over $500 million in two separate record-breaking settlements. So these together, they're record-breaking, but also separately, they're record-breaking. The FTC said Epic will pay $275 million in a penalty for violating the COPPA Act and $245 million to refund customers tricked into making unwanted charges. $520 million. Jesus Christ. The complaint alleged that they were collecting personal information from children under the age of 13. Now, technically, these companies are allowed to do that, but they need permission from the guardian in order to do that. And apparently they never gave permission. They were collecting information on these kids who play Fortnite, a game that is riddled with kids under the age of 13. Zero, what are your thoughts on Epic Games getting caught and having to pay this fine to the FTC?
It's a bit interesting, especially because when you go through the FTC's little PR release about this, apparently both Epic employees and customers to the Epic Game Store had made complaints about just a lot of the issues that were mentioned on this lawsuit, like the COPPA violations, the default settings in Fortnite that immediately opt kids into both text and voice chat in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The really strange use of illegal dark patterns, basically that did stuff that essentially sort of gatewayed people into the stores. So things like if a kid went to like the buy V-Bucks area, there wasn't like a confirmation prompt to say, hey, are you sure you want to buy $100 in V-Bucks? It was just kind of a, hi, here's how you buy V-Bucks. Here's the low package and here's the high package. Which package would you like? And then on immediately pressing one of those buttons, just boom, transaction done. And then in the dark patterns issues as well too, you also had situations like if someone wanted to preview a skin, if they clicked on it, it would automatically purchase the skin. There was no confirmation prompt to say, hey there, are you sure you want to purchase the skin? It was just kind of a, if you clicked on it, boom, you bought it. Hey, how about that? So that was pretty bad too. And really, really, really bad point is that this also leads to is if a parent discovered that their kid just went on kind of a V-Buck buying spree and then just went absolutely hog wild, if the parent tried to request a refund, apparently Epic support would make it very, very hard to get a refund. And then if you managed to get the refund, instead of sort of rolling back the account on buying stuff, they would just ban the account outright if you ended up like doing a chargeback or a refund request just on your kid's account. So that also brought some ethical questions on what happens to the accounts, because of course some of these accounts had items that they legit bought. Mm-hmm. So you're also withholding people from literally their purchases. And that also brings up some consumer advocacy questions because of, okay, well, cool, you provided the parent the refund, but problem, the account also had stuff that was legitimately purchased. I mean, little John or Jane Doe who saved up a whole bunch of money to buy V-Buck cards with their allowance money, beaming their V-Bucks cards into the game for V-Bucks to buy stuff from the store. Those items end up being completely locked off because their account got banned because they went on a spending spree on their parents' credit card. So that that ended up just kind of also throwing a ethical question into the mix. So yeah, this one was a real big can of worms to just read through.
Yeah. And this is not the only game that Epic Games has this problem with. Didn't we have a story 6 months ago that Fall Guys had the same issue?
Yeah. Fall Guys had a similar issue where when people were looking at skins, they would click on the skin to try to get a preview, and then they would get a prompt saying, "Hey, congrats, you just bought a new skin." And people would just go, what? I was just trying to preview the skin. I wasn't trying to buy the skin.
This is going to provide, I believe, a chilling effect to a certain extent with some companies. Not all, but some. That a big studio like Epic Games that has a lot of cash flow and a lot of companies that give them money to improve their money intake, that they got tagged with this. Because there are a lot of different games, not only on console and PC, but on mobile, that do these same things. And the other thing as well, yes, they have to provide Guardians permission to allow them to take data from their gameplay that they're doing, but that's also considering that the child actually tells the game that they're under the age of 13, which most of them do not do. So there's those issues as well in regards to this. I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, I should say. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a bunch of games start taking out these things because of this fine. This was an example fine. This was something that the FTC did to say, let's get the biggest person who's doing this, make an example out of them, so then the rest will just fall back in fear that they will get tagged next. Is my opinion, at least. Because the other thing too, like, these transactions aren't new at all. Like, even games like League of Legends, Dota, like games that have been here for a long time, okay, have had prompts that said, hey, you're about to spend this. Are you sure? The fact that these companies started doing this and getting away with it is in fact pretty scummy. And I'm kind of surprised that Epic was doing this at the time. I don't know what it is that they got away with that made them get away with it for so long, except for, like, you know, the standard games media not covering this, which has been an issue. Wasn't the Fall Guys thing not covered until it got really big? Like, it really went viral? So
Yeah, pretty much when people started just kind of just blowing it up on social media going, yo, hey, Epic, Mediatonic, fix this issue, because I just clicked on a skin to look at it, but I didn't realize clicking on the skin meant I would automatically be buying it.
yeah, I'm just surprised that, and I haven't been on Fortnite in God knows how long, but I'm just surprised that they were doing this, really. I just thought this was like standard legal practice, that you click on something and then say, hey, are you sure this is going to cost money? Or, hey, are you sure this is going to take away X amount of V-Bucks? I am actually legitimately surprised by this, but good on the FTC for cracking down on it. And which makes me ask another question to you, Zero. Do you think more crackdowns are coming to the gaming industry involving their means of doing monetization and microtransaction purchases?
Potentially, yes, especially if there are other companies trying to play it fast and loose, kind of like what Epic had done with Fortnite, especially with regards to dark patterns and everything, because unfortunately, most people aren't technology savvy to kind of figure out that, you know, just things do have dark patterns. And unfortunately, the way how some of these dark patterns are built, they're built to condition people to just go, oh, well, shit, I guess it is how it is, instead of going, okay, yeah, something doesn't smell right. This shouldn't be as difficult as this is to do a certain thing, be it ask for a refund, cancel transactions, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I know towards the end of the FCC's PR statement, they had said that they did some internal testing on the Fortnite client and found that it was very, very hard to find a command to request a refund.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were a parent and you found out that your kid spent like the equivalent of $2,000 worth in V-Bucks, and then you basically had to go, okay, yeah, just this is not acceptable, little Johnny. You are not supposed to be throwing this kind of money down the drain. And then they were trying to find the refund button to tell Epic, yo, my kid did this. This was not me. This was not authorized. At least from how it was implied by the FCC's PR statement, just it seems like Epic purposely hid the command just to make it difficult to find.
Which is a common thing not only in games, but also in these gaming marketplaces. How easy is it to get a refund on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo? It's fairly difficult. And then when you actually get to somebody who can authorize the refund, they have these arbitrary and downright draconian rules that basically makes it really hard to get a refund. Like, for example, when Cyberpunk 2077 came out and it was absolutely broken, they would until CD Projekt Red allowed refunds to get done, people were not getting refunds because Sony said if you download the game, you own it now, and we don't give off refunds for games that you've downloaded, which is completely arbitrary and ridiculous. I think Xbox is a little bit better, but Nintendo is one of the... I've had issues with Nintendo when it comes to refunds and stuff like that. And they're not very easy either. This could be a long due thing for the gaming industry to now start being a lot more open with their purchasing and refunds when it comes to digital games. Because for a long time now, we've had to deal with downloading games on these servers and them either not working as intended, or in the worst cases, not what they advertised to be. And then these marketplaces say, you purchased it and you've played it for 30 minutes or you've downloaded it. It's over. You can't refund it. Steam is a little bit better with their refund policy where they give you, I think it was 2 hours of gameplay and then you can't refund it. I mean, that's
2 hours of gameplay.
That's a little bit better, but I have issues with their refund policy too, which I'll skip on that one. I think what it sounds like is that the FTC might be going after the gaming industry hard in the next couple of years. They're going after a big dog right now. What's to say that they're not going to start going after other companies? Like I don't know. What's it like? Destiny. Like let's say Destiny, for example. I don't know if they have these kind of scummy practices or anything, but I can see the FTC saying, let's take a look at the biggest games out there, how they're monetizing it, and see if they are being deceptive or if they're not in the spirit of the law or whatever. I can see the crosshairs finally coming to the gaming industry, which we've said all year, and before the podcast we used to talk about all the time. This was coming. This was coming in a... Either it was going to come in a big way, or it was going to be quiet enough where the companies are going to start realizing, oh, wait, we can't do this anymore. So before they start regulating us, let's just pivot.
It definitely sounds like that a lot of developers are, by tangential relationship, online video game platform stores are definitely going to have to start trying to revise stuff in order to not be in the crosshairs of the FCC, especially since several people also had pointed out that the COPPA violations also technically violate some EU regulations that have a similar sort of structure to them. But in the EU, some of the protections extend to children that are up to even 17 in some in some countries. While just 13 seems to be the magic number here in the US, yeah, you've got other countries who are a little bit more tight-fisted about this sort of thing. So that means Epic has to be compliant on that, but again, just there may be a tangential side effect that now you've got Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo potentially going, okay, so that's what happened to Epic? Okay, well, we need to start looking into ways to be in compliance with the future of this stuff, or prepare to possibly be just beaten to a pulp by the legal systems in other countries or in the US.
Yeah. We thought this was going to really hone down on loot boxes, which we've talked before, there are countries that are trying to regulate loot boxes as we speak. But the thing that I didn't think they would go this route, really, but I'm glad they did on this. I'm usually not one for the government being very heavy-handed with businesses, but when it's necessary, then the key thing is when it's necessary, then I'm for it. And this was necessary because a lot of games and a lot of the big games use these practices. And I'm really wondering exactly what they were recording from these kids. Because the other thing that people, I think gamers like us and people who are in the know realize that these games do this, but they don't just record what you do in the game. They also record what you look at or what you spend time in the shop looking at or previewing, or skins that you're looking at when you're in game. There are algorithms that point out that, hey, this account has been looking at this skin for X amount of minutes. Maybe we should, I don't know, in 2 days give them a 20% off discount. Or, hey, maybe we should put them in matches where that skin is more often seen. Stuff like that. I wonder if they are getting that data as well. Like, I would love to know the specifics of what data that they were taking from these children, because that's essentially what they do when they ask for your data with these games. They take a look at what you're interested in, and they try and feed the need for you to purchase that at any point in time.
Well, the FTC statement mentions that in some of the communications that they had with children, it was mostly concerning communications via email. So,
okay.
One of the things that they said that was prominent in emails to children's accounts were children would get like marketing surveys. So it'd be something like, "Hey, we're looking to work with Nerf to make a new Nerf gun that's based on a Fortnite weapon, and we would like your opinions as a child who plays Fortnite on what you think about this new toy that could be heading to your local retailer." And it would be stuff like, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think about the color of this toy gun? What do you think about the color combination for the darts? Do you like the blue and orange, or would you rather it be in a different color? But what do you think is a fair price for this product?" and stuff like that. So these kids got full-on marketing emails.
Oh wow, that is insanely stupid.
And on top of that, just they would also get advertisements for the merch store, like, "Hey, get some swag merch to show off how much you like Fortnite." And so stuff that would be better directed to an adult. And then what also ends up kind of stacking onto the whole COPPA violations is if a kid had an issue, they would end up directly talking to a support agent. And that's a big no-no for the COPPA regulations, because no adult should be contacting these kids.
Right.
Even for a support issue, the support ticket should go to the parent, but that wasn't the case. And I know Epic actually just put out a PR statement this morning saying one of the big things that they are debuting in order to combat this whole thing is they're making new, I believe they call them nested accounts. So basically, the child account would be a sub account under the adult parent's account. And then basically just the parent has some controls that they can exert on it and everything. But things like support requests would now arrive into the parent's email box rather than the kid's email box. But again, this this whole nested account thing is going to be relying on the parent, because if the parent's lazy and the parent just goes, or the parent has their kid begging them, "Oh, mom, don't make mine a nested account. Just set up the account for me. It'll be fine." Then this whole thing sort of falls apart.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm definitely not in favor of what countries like South Korea do, where your social country ID is bound to all of your online accounts, and that in Korea you can't make an online Korean account for any Korean games unless you've got one of these governmental IDs issued to you at birth. So yeah, I'm not in favor of that either, because I think that gets a bit too intrusive as well too.
But we're leading to that, aren't we?
Yeah, it's unfortunately definitely creeping more and more towards that.
It is rather, yeah, that is really strange that they would have support tickets and they would be speaking to children when it comes to the support tickets. Because not only is it creepy for an adult to talk to a child without the parents knowing, we won't get into why, but that's obvious. But it's also, like, it's easy to manipulate a child into doing what you essentially want the outcome to be in that situation. So if they're saying like, "Oh, I accidentally purchased this. I want a refund." "No, buddy, sorry, final purchase." But it said, "Nope, sorry." Okay, and that's it. Like, it's really scummy. It really is bad. And the fact that they were doing this, like, consoles have nested accounts or sub accounts. I think other games have nested accounts too, if I recall correctly. So I don't know why it took them until now to finally say, that might not be a bad idea to have parent controls. Probably the reason is because they've been getting away with it, but they're not anymore. I guess the only question I really have is, how soon is the crackdown going to be? Are a bunch of companies, like, say, I don't know, in the next 3 months are going to suddenly start saying, "Oh, we have parental controls, nested accounts. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. We care about your children's privacy." How long is that going to take? Or is it going to take the FTC to go after these people too?
I believe that with Epic being at the forefront of this, expect a few other companies to make sort of feel-good PR statements, reminding people, "Hey, we do have parental controls, so if you don't want little Timmy or little Jane to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars, please ensure that they are set up under a sub account under your account. That way you can control their spending and set your limits on whether or not that they can chat via voice chat or text chat, or if they can accept friend requests or not, and things like that." So I would say in the next few weeks or so, expect a couple of gaming companies to come out with like their own little PR statements going, "Look, we're better than Epic because we give you, the parents, the control."
Yeah.
And everything. But I would say that after the feel-good blitz dies off, expect any companies who've been sort of egregiously sort of slipping underneath the cracks to suddenly be exposed to potential threats by the FCC, if the FCC gets wind of them, that is. If the FTC gets wind of any other companies doing this, then yeah, maybe expect some more to come out of this. But yeah, honestly, I think what we will likely see most probably is we'll probably see some feel-good PR statements reminding people, "Hey, we've got parental controls. If you've got kids, you should be using these."
Yeah. I think what's going to end up happening, I mean, all the console makers has sub-accounts, and they also have in those accounts a limit to what their kids can do to purchase without having permission from, I guess, the parent. I know I set up a sub-account for my nephew under my name, and he has a limit of, I think it's $20 that he can spend on there if he ever decides to at that point. So I set that up on there as well. I think they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna do a PR blitz showing that. I think they're gonna have to make those accounts more flexible too, because the problem I had is that if the account was already created and it wasn't created as a sub account, you can't then take that account and turn it into a sub account. You would have to create a brand new account, which became a pain because with the way that the online services work, the online services are only attached to a specific account name. So that becomes an issue as well. I think by the end of the year next year, you're going to see the online services open up a lot more in flexibility, but have much more options to crack down on these purchases. I think EA and 2K are next in this, because I think what they're going to have to start doing just to combat this, because loot boxes are next. I can already see that now, that loot boxes are the next thing that the FTC is going to go after too. I think what EA and 2K are going to have to do is start age gating the loot box mechanic game, like the Ultimate Team and My Team from their specific games, because if they don't, then I could see this FTC going after these companies and saying you're exposing kids to gambling, and then we're going to have this whole other mess that's going to happen. And is the ESA flush with enough money to defend their case against the FTC? I'm not sure. But and I know these companies do have a lot of money they can throw around to do that. But then are you going to be able to do that and then win against the FTC? Or are you going to do it, lose, and then have a massive fine coming to you right after that? Like, what's going to happen here? What do you think is the future of this?
To the point about loot boxes, in the Epic PR statement about this, they have a giant paragraph on things that they will be changing or have already changed on Fortnite. And the list goes with no pay-to-win or pay-to-progress mechanics in PvP experiences. And then the second point is a big one. No paid random loot boxes since 2019 and no gambling ever. Mm-hmm. So they've already pledged that, just you won't be buying like random loot boxes anymore, especially since they've now implemented the X-ray llama pinatas now, mm-hmm. that you can see what the items are currently being offered that day. And if you don't like them, just you can wait until the next day cycles in, and then you can then recheck the pinata and see if it's got stuff you want. And if you do, then cool, you can just go, yep, that box has all the shit I want, so let me go buy it.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting, especially for the sports games, because I know a lot of games have stopped doing this type of thing, but sports games are still rife with it. And I think it's going to end up by year's end next year that I think the sports games specifically will stop doing this. And they'll just go for, unfortunately, the Overwatch model, which is basically we're going to put everything in the store, you'll have a battle pass, and then if you want a specific player or a specific special card, that'll cost $10-15. I think is what's going to end up happening.
I'll say that we should probably add the FTC's little PR blast in addition to the Epic PR blast about this for anyone who wants to read both and kind of make their own conclusions on the whole matter. Because, yeah, it's a bit of a whopper to go through. And I know we pretty much kind of quickly glossed over on some things, but yeah, I think really the both of us are more curious on the long-term effects on the video game industry that this has.
It's going to be really interesting what, like you said, what happens as a result of this. And I think we're going to see this throughout the year next year. It'll come out in drips and drabs, but it's when the big companies that like EA and Take-Two and to see what they do in regards to this. I don't think Blizzard has that issue now, technically. Well, maybe with Diablo Immortal. But I foresee a lot of these companies now officially staying away from loot boxes to a certain extent. Or at least paying for those loot boxes is what I'll say, if you know what I mean. But anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this podcast segment. The Capital Games podcast is done every week, and we post it on all your favorite podcast apps, as well as segments on YouTube. If you want to listen to another segment, you can listen to a new one right there on the screen. We also do a movie podcast called the Capital Games Movie Club. If you'd like, you can go ahead and click on that and see all the movies that we have reviewed from that point. Thank you for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon.